Federation Alliance's progress was not to last. In fact, some of its worst defeats were yet to come as the tide of the conflict turned against it once more. First, the Dominion bolstered its own resources by perfecting its breeding plans to create newer, tougher Alpha Quadrant Jem'Hadar. It also stepped up production of ships in Cardassian shipyards, such as the massive facility at Monak 4. Approximately 70% of the ships in production there were Jem'Hadar attack fighters, which had proved their worth against the Federation Alliance time and time again. With these new assets in hand, the Dominion set out to cripple key Federation production facilities. In most instances, this strategy relied on conventional assaults involving strike forces of ships. For example, on Stardate 51474.3, a fleet of ships commanded by the Vortek Genlon smashed through Federation lines at a weak point in the Benzar system to attack the dilithium mines at Cordana. The 6th and 17th fleets defended Cordana, one of the Federation's primary dilithium production facilities, for over a century, but they were unprepared for the brutality of the Dominion assault. Using tri-cobalt devices to destroy 2 orbital defense stations, and torpedo and Polaran beam volleys to punch a hole through the main defensive perimeter, the enemy flew in as close to the planet and fired ultrinum concussive shells to cause heavy damage to the mine and mining facilities. The attack sealed over 1,500 miners into the mines to die of suffocation. Sometimes, the Dominion achieved equally effective results with its old weapons of subterfuge and trickery. Shortly after the Cordania attack, a founder disguised as a high-ranking officer in the Advanced Starship Design Bureau activated a cascading computer virus which wreaked havoc at the Utopia Planitia fleet yards and the Antares fleet yards. The Federation's chief ship production facilities were crippled. Computer failures throughout the shipyards resulted in several disasters, including the explosion of 3 fusion plants, when their safety interlocks were accidentally switched off. Production at both yards virtually halted for many weeks, straining the other yards such as Space Dock 1 and Earth Station McKinley. Seeking any advantage, the founders contacted other Alpha Quadrant species. In late 2374, the Dominion sent a founder to the Breen homeworld who over several months forged an alliance with the Breen. The founders also used the Orion Syndicate. The Dominion would go on to hire Syndicate members to perform many minor acts of quote-unquote unconventional warfare, such as assassinations and terrorist attacks. By the mid-2374s, the Dominion Cardassian Alliance had regrouped and rebuilt enough to launch a major push to break through the Federation Klingon lines. War historians refer to this as the Kalandra Offensive, since much of the fighting in subsequent months took place in and around the Kalandra sector. The offensive began with increasing boldness on the part of the Dominion Cardassian forces. Federation Klingon patrols came under fire on an almost daily basis. The attacks wore down Starfleet personnel, diminishing morale, and the occasional Dominion Cardassian triumph. With the Romulans turning a blind eye to their activities, they even slipped across the Romulan neutral zone to attack Federation ships on the other side. The Caldara offensive began in earnest on Stardate 51721.3 with a devastating blow to the Federation, the conquest of Betazed. Earlier that day, Dominion Cardassian forces detected that the 10th Fleet, protector of Betazed and its outlying colonies, had strayed too far from its home base on a training exercise. Starfleet Command believes a mild subspace fluctuation affecting space near Betazed confused the 10th Fleet's navigational sensors. Additionally, Starfleet Intelligence reports discounting the enemy fleet in Kalandra as a major risk due to its distance from current Dominion supply lines. Upon detecting the 10th's miscalculation, the Dominion Cardassian forces in Kalandra assembled a fleet of nearly 200 ships and launched a 5-pronged attack. Admiral Medine had spread the 10th Fleet out in a mock battle formation, one quite suitable for training but not for defending against an attack. To his credit, though, Admiral Medine regrouped his forces, but it was too little too late. The ships of the 10th fought valiantly for over 7 hours, but one by one, the Dominion Cardassian ships blew them out of the sky. Medine briefly considered surrender, but realized he had to buy as much time as possible for Betazed to prepare its defensive systems. On his orders, the 10th Fleet went down fighting, with all ships lost. Unfortunately, even with the extra time bought by the sacrifice of the 10th Fleet, Betazed could not resist the Dominion Cardassian attack. Its planetary defense systems were too obsolete and undermanned, and its planetary defense force too small and undergunned to stop the enemy. In less than 3 hours, the entire planet was in Dominion hands. The Dominion acted decisively to solidify its gain, bringing in hundreds of additional ships and thousands of troops to pacify the planet and reinforce its supply lines. Within 2 days of the initial conquest, the Jem'Hadar eradicated virtually every trace of resistance on Betazed and occupied every major facility. With brutal efficiency, they rounded up all Starfleet personnel, governmental officials, and civic leaders, nearly 5 million people, and executed them. The Dominion took special care to resist the effects of the Betazed psionic abilities. It brought in a psychic Vorta to help control the population, and immediately killed any Betazed who even seemed to try to use his or her abilities to communicate with his fellows or influence the Dominion Cardassian personnel. The Betazoids soon felt the harsh hand of Dominion rule. Eager to strip the Betazed of its usable resources, the Dominion heralded thousands of Betazoids into hastily constructed labor camps. Labor gangs, commanded by Jem'Hadar overseers, opened new mines, raised entire forests, used Dominion science to accelerate harvests, and exploited every other resource available to them. The Dominion allowed the rest of the Betazoids to resume their daily lives under the unwavering gaze of Jem'Hadar security forces, provided they caused no trouble. Despite these harsh measures, the freedom-loving Betazoids formed a small resistance movement. Composed mainly of Starfleet personnel who escaped into the wilderness before the Jem'Hadar fully occupied the planet, its members used Betazoid telepathic powers to establish communication between isolated cells and plan attack on the invaders. Despite the brutality of the Dominion conquerors, the Resistance had no difficulty in recruiting additional Betazeds all over the planet. The capture of Betazed left many other core Federation worlds, including Vulcan, Tellar, Alpha Centauri, and Andoria, vulnerable to Dominion Cardassian attack, and the loss of any one of those worlds would leave the Dominion within striking distance of Earth itself. Desperate to prevent further losses, Starfleet scrambled to move forces into place to defend those systems. The 6th Fleet bolstered the 5th, 13th, and 31st Fleets protecting Vulcan. The 8th Fleet, protecting Andoria with the assistance of the Andorian Defense Forces, was reinforced by the 22nd and 13th Fleets. The 1st and 14th Fleets defended Alpha Centauri with the remnants of the 19th Fleet as reinforcements. The 27th Fleet came back from the Benzite system to back up Tellar's native defense force and the 2nd and 29th Fleets. The Dominion, eager to make further inroads into core Federation territory, struck at both Vulcan and Alpha Centauri simultaneously. Vulcan was its main target, but they used the Alpha Centauri assault as a distraction. The attack on Alpha Centauri went much better for the Dominion, primarily because it wasn't an attack on Alpha Centauri at all. Realizing Benzar was much more vulnerable, the Dominion Cardassian strike fleet changed course. Starfleet directed the 14th Fleet to leave Alpha Centauri space and pursue, but then it was too late. The 11th Fleet, protecting Benzar, was too small to resist the Dominion Cardassian onslaught. In only an hour of fighting, the enemy reduced most of the 11th Fleet to floating space debris. Taking control of the remnants of the Benzar defense perimeter, the Dominion dug in and awaited the arrival of the 14th Fleet. Admiral Tohas organized his forces into 4 prongs, each composed of diverse wings designed to complement each other's capabilities. He came at Benzar from 4 different angles, trying to overcome the defenders before they controlled the Benzar defense perimeter. His forces prevented the Jem'Hadar and Cardassians from taking full advantage of their position, but not from using several intact tri-cobalt devices that they had captured. One of the devices so badly damaged his flagship, the USS Fagaran, that it was unable to move. Undaunted, he directed the assault from his ship after moving 2 wings into place to defend it. Over the course of the next 3 hours, Falliner and his personnel hammered away at the enemy, weakened by its earlier fight with the 11th Fleet. Just as victory seemed within Starfleet's grasp, enemy reinforcements arrived. Fresh and fully armed, they quickly crushed the 14th Fleet's starboard flank. The admiral retreated, escaping with 47 of his 124 ships. Benzar remained in the hands of the Dominion. The Jem'Hadar occupied it, treating its inhabitants just like they had treated the Betazoids only days prior. This concludes today's video in regards to the Dominion War Part 3. I hope that you guys and gals found this both entertaining and informative. We will be picking up again with Part 4, where the Romulans will be entering the war for the side of, well, I guess you'll have to wait and see. Again, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please throw a like and subscribe up on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at RealKetwolski, and follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/RealKetwolski. And I will see all of you guys and gals next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies.